We're on. Welcome everybody to episode 3 or installment 3 of this humble little Zoomcast that we've been doing throughout COVID. I'm Matt Grima and geez, we've gone to the absolute top today. We had some really good guests. Episode 1 and 2, Brendan Allen absolutely dominated, and Brad Cooper was 60 minute style in the way that he gave some intel and information. But episode 3, we've gone to the very top. We've got Mandy Stanley from Team Chiminello, the business manager of that particular team. Welcome, Mandy.
Thanks, Maddie. So good to be invited on for episode 3. Brad and Brendan, I'm a bit nervous to follow them, but yeah, I'm a big fan of the show, as you know.
Big shoes to fill. I think you're my only fan or supporter of this little show, but
no, it can't be true. On. No.
Appreciate you jumping on. Now, we had some technical difficulties to get this Zoomcast up, but you've got a phone in a tissue box at the moment, I reckon, and things are going well.
I have cut the top out of a tissue box, and you were sitting on that because the iPhone seemed to be the only thing that was going to work for us, and you know the lighting's got to be just right. So
absolutely.
Thanks for putting up with me.
Yeah, as Brendan pointed out in episode 1, I've got the glow on the face to try and help me out here. So
you're doing well, and that beard, can I just say, 10 out of 10.
Thank you. Yeah, I've grown it myself. Beard maintenance is a thing at the moment. You've got to buy your oils and your trimmers and your. It was a lot easier when you just shave every morning, but
I don't know how you do it. Looking glamorous in COVID. Well done.
Yeah, good. All right, we're going to. All right, your story is an interesting one, Mandy. There's a lot of people that obviously know who you are and what you do inside the four walls of Marshall White. You're the business manager of arguably the busiest team in the company and one of the busiest team in the country. So, you know, you've absolutely got your hands full, but a lot of people, a lot of agents, I reckon, around Marshall White and surrounds would be interested to hear your backstory as to how you ended up getting into the role that you do today and some of the things you do day to day. You work with some of the absolute elite in Marcus Kiminello, Nicole French, Nicholas Brooks, who's an absolute superstar in his own right, and no doubt you have a bit of fun on the way.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, we do get people knocking on our door, poking their heads in, saying, how is there so much laughing going on in here, and how much work are you guys actually getting done? But yeah, so I'm very fortunate to be working with, obviously I'm biased, some of the best at the moment. And yeah, it hasn't been a short real estate journey. I've actually been in real estate now, don't want to give away my age too much, but 16 years now. So obviously I started very young. But yeah, a lot of people don't know I'm actually the daughter of a real estate agent. So my experience with real estate obviously started very young. I don't know if you, being a young man, Matt, would remember the Nokia 5110. Yeah, mate, that was
Snake and Snake 2.
Absolutely, it is.
Okay.
It used to be, yeah. So my father obviously had that pretty glued to his ear for a lot of my younger days. So I grew up listening to prospecting calls, some of which I think were coached by James Tosterton back then. So interesting circle. Obviously, I knew nothing as a younger person of who any of these sort of real estate types were, but I'm now working with some of them, which is great.
Is that still an agent?
He is now, yeah. He got out for a little while. So he had his own franchise agent. He was officer and effective control. So I kind of got a sort of insight into, you know, what being, what the boss is sort of, you know, pressures are under and things like that. And then also being at home, the daughter of a real estate agent as well. So yeah, sort of got a glimpse of many sort of sides. And then when I was, you know, 16 or 17, I was helping out being the Saturday receptionist. So then while I was finishing school, and then carried on while I was at uni a little bit as well. So I kind of sort of stayed in it a little bit there. Did
you ever, Mandy, have aspirations to become an agent yourself?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I actually said, once the, you know, Saturday reception sort of gig, you know, was at an end, and I had my degree, I was going off and, you know, being a marketing executive, or however I imagined it back then. Definitely getting out of real estate. But when that happened and I finished my degree, it was the GFC. So all of the marketing roles for graduates had 200, 300 applicants on them. So it was pretty tough going to, Launchpad at that time. So yeah, made the decision to stay on with Dad, and he obviously needed, at the time, he needed a receptionist full time. He was, the previous receptionist was going on maternity leave, and he didn't have anyone to fill the steps. So I said, I'll help the old man out just for a little bit. That little bit ended up being about 5 or 6 years, I think. So it was a bit of a stint.
What's you gave me? We had a nice chat a couple of weeks ago, and I was actually sort of quizzing you or prepping you that I might have to have you on one of these little ZOOMCasts. Were you in Bali at the time that you got given an opportunity to work in Team Chiminello? How did that actually all come about? So that's a bloody good story. That.
It was a bit random, actually, the way I sort of found myself into Marshall White and working with Marcus and Nicole. Yeah. After sort of leaving the family business, I guess, I worked for a developer who did luxury stock in Toorak, South Yarra, and Marcus and Nicole were the agents that would handle those properties for the developer. I was working with the developer, making sure that they were prepared and everything was ready for them. So I'd spoken to Marcus and Nicole, a few times across the different properties, and when I finished up my role with the developer, I went on holidays to Bali, and I was obviously very nervous about what I was going to do when I got back and finding a new job, and I was sort of sipping a cocktail by the pool and also stressing about that as well. It's a bit of an awkward spot to be in. But then Marcus had found out that I was no longer working with that developer, and sort of LinkedIn wasn't really a thing back then. So he sort of jumped on Facebook and managed to track me down and said, what are you doing? Come and have a coffee. And I thought, all right, we'll see how we go. And I got back from Bali and said, I'll pop in and have a coffee and say hello. And, I used to obviously work with the likes of them. I thought I'll come see your office and where you operate out of, but I'll also go see my recruiter in the city, because obviously, I'm needing a new job. And little did I know, I sort of walked in, had a coffee with Marcus, and he said, I'll show you around the office, see where we get our business done. I thought, oh yeah, that's lovely. And he said, oh, and this is, Jackie Hall, general manager, have a chat. And I sort of sat down and I accidentally was kind of in an interview. By the time I walked out, I chatted to, I think I chatted to Dad, and he goes, oh, how did you go down in the city? And I said, I think I got a job. It was a bit random. I don't know how that happened, but it just all sort of fell into place, I think.
So a coffee/job interview without you really knowing that it was a job interview.
How's that for being a salesman? Sold me right into it, and I didn't even know.
Yeah, and that's how long ago, Mandy? 6 years ago.
That is, next month will be 6 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's gone so quickly.
Always worked with Marcus and Nicole in that team.
I have, yeah. So obviously came into the company generally just sort of learning the ropes, and I think the way that I work seemed to be a good fit for the way that Marcus and Nicole operate. And obviously I already had an idea of what kind of properties, what kind of clients they work with. Obviously there's the development space, which I was a part of, and also your sort of other luxury homes as well. So it seemed to be a good fit, and I joined the team, and good luck trying to get me out of there.
This might sound like a really simple question. Is there an extra level of feeling nervous or anxious dealing with a client that owns, say, a $10 or $11 million property, as opposed to somebody who owns an apartment, for example? Is there a different pressure or stress that comes with that, or is it just clients are clients, and you've got to work with say the personality trait more so than the piece of real estate you're involved with?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. It's not all same, but you're right. It does need to be tailored or a little bit custom to who the client is, and understanding them better, I think. And Marcus and Nicole are great at assessing that and making sure the way that we're set up to service those clients is appropriate. So how much involvement I will have with the client does differ across different clients, and we will tailor that, and we'll make sure that it is custom and works for them being the client, how they like to be communicated with, but also how we go about operating for them and their property, because it needs to suit them at the end of the day.
Agents are strange people, for lack of a better term. We've all got incredibly different personalities. The way we think and the way we work is all incredibly different. Agent 1 to Agent 2 to Agent 3. So the way Marcus might talk or think might differ to the way Brooksy might set something up. Nick Brooks, who as I said earlier, is an absolute star. And then Nicole might have some different strategies or methods that she'd like to employ, again, depending upon the client or the situation. Talk me through, how do you handle the different personality types of clients, of agents? Do they differ a lot, and how do you do it? How do you get through it?
They absolutely do differ, and it is at the moment being our team, myself and the amazing Madeline Stewart. We sort of work pretty hard to manage 3 very different agents, and that being Marcus, who I think the biggest learnings out of the first 12 months that I spent in the team were the most difficult, because I really had to assess how they operate and what the best way is to communicate with them. So for example, with Marcus, I really need to read the play about what page he's on day to day as to how I can, work best with him. Sometimes the best thing I can do for him in a day is actually just give him some space. And some days it might be, making sure I'm running ahead of him and putting everything in its place as he walks through his day. Nicole, she's obviously a brilliant agent, and she's very organized. So a lot of the time her and I bounce off each other really well for being ahead of the play and making sure that things are running, smoothly is sort of a lower standard. We want to be sort of above that. And Nick Brooks, he's different again. So it's taken Nick, he's been in the team now, it'd be nearly 3 years, I think. But he operates completely different again, and also plays a different role in the team. So I have to adapt 3 different ways depending how we're doing things, and make sure that I am catering it individually to those 3. I can't operate with Nicole the same way that I would with Marcus or Nick, or it just won't gel, basically.
So you've got 3 sales guns. You've got Marcus, Nicole, and Nick. And then what's the rest of the team look like, Mandy?
Yeah, so at the moment we are 5 of us. So myself being making sure I'm looking after everyone in the team, our clients, the agents themselves, and the properties. And we've got Mandy Stewart, who's basically doing all of that with me, and she plays a little bit of a different role, more of a reactive role, so that we're able to do what we need to do on the spot as it happens. And as you can only be so organized for a structured week, but then there's everything that happens outside of that and everything that comes up. And she's brilliant at being that dynamic personality that we need, that really just sets us up perfectly. So and I think one of the things that we do well together is just basically focusing on our roles and basically focusing on what we're best at. So I make sure I stick to what I'm good at, leave Marcus to do what he's the best at, and same goes for the rest of the team. So as long as we're playing our part, everything seems to work and flow really well.
You look like, I'm not saying this because you're sitting there, but you look like a bloody happy team. Whenever I walk into that office, there's a genuine energy and a good feeling about walking into to that space, and everyone seems up and about, and there seems to be a good level of support. 6 years is a long time. As you can come and go through different admin opportunities and business management opportunities, but you've been there for a long time. What do you think are some of the keys to having the longevity that you've had and the team's had with one another?
Yeah. Look, you're right. We do. Humour is a huge sort of aspect of our office. We work with some very, very funny people, and I I feel like on some of our, really more difficult days is when we've done a lot more of our laughing, because we just need it and we sort of thrive off that. And it just gives us that, that little bit of edge to, sort of keep going with it and make sure we are keeping our heads up, which can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think the major sort of factor there is attitude. Marcus is renowned. I mean, you've obviously spent a bit of time with him as well, but I mean, there's a very, I don't think you'd ever catch him without a big smile on his face and a really positive attitude. He's always pushing forward. Nicole's the same, and same with Nick. You'll never sort of catch us in a bit of a bad mood. Don't get us wrong. We are busy and we are sort of running at pace a lot of the time, but, that attitude is really, really important. And I think carries us with that longevity. And you're right, I have been there for quite a long time, but year on year things haven't been the same, and I feel like we are being dynamic to the market, to the people that we deal with. Our properties aren't always the same, our clients aren't always the same, and we have, Marcus and Nicole are very good at progressing the way we do things. We're not just doing that stock standard cookie cutter thing and just regurgitating that every year. I think we are, pretty good at being dynamic, pushing forward, making sure we're always one-upping ourselves and doing better with every campaign that we run.
Got it. Yeah, it's interesting. How has obviously the current environment that we're all in at the moment is a weird one and unique.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's strange, but I have to say we're halfway through it at the moment, and people seem to be holding up really, really well. We're fortunate to have the levels of support that we do, and be involved in some funny meetings that you and I take part in every Tuesday, where we share a few funny texts about what people are doing and wearing and up to on the company-wide Zoom call. How has your world changed in terms of what you do day to day with COVID hanging over us, and specifically working from home at the moment?
Yep. This level of lockdown's obviously been a little bit different to what had happened before. Earlier in the year, obviously, we did, I think that our team has been really good at being realistic about what we can and can't do in these times. And it's very rare that we get the opportunity to, have a bit more downtime than we would usually. I mean, most of the time we are running absolutely at pace. So to be, have that backed off a little bit at the moment, still obviously keeping in contact with each other, with our clients as well, making sure everyone, knows the state of play and how things are going to be approached as soon as we know how we can approach them. Because, I mean, it's been a learning experience for us. I mean, none of us have been through this before. So, and as I've mentioned earlier, I think one of the key things has been just dynamic and adapting to what's come up, and just making sure that we've got confidence that, things are still, it's not the end of the world. Things will, get back to a level that everyone's comfortable with, and we just need to sort of nurture through that. So the team and I are catching up, either it's text messages or Zooms or, phone calls day to day. But we're also sort of keeping a bit of a focus on that downtime that we don't usually get, and also our families and connecting on a sort of a bit of a more chill level, which has been nice. It's been different.
Yeah, after speaking with Brendan and Brad in the first couple of episodes, I think the general consensus is that when lockdown lifts, it's going to be game on, and there's going to be a lot of buzz around the real estate industry. Properties obviously are going to either launch for the first time to market, or perhaps relaunch after taking a little bit of a break for obvious reasons. So it's probably not a bad time, is it, to recharge and maybe go for a walk with somebody that you don't normally do in a COVID safe way, of course, but or pick up the phone and speak to some old friends or some family that you haven't neglected, but due to just being as busy as you are, you haven't had a chance to speak to in a while.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And I mean, sometimes we're working, anywhere between 8 and 14 hours during the day, during the week, and, get to the weekend. And obviously it's a, pretty demanding industry. Saturdays are a big day on the ground for agents, particularly. Lucky enough that, my Monday to Friday is sort of big enough. And if we've got things set the way they need to be, the agents can handle those, Saturdays with ease, as they do. But yeah, we don't obviously get a lot of time time to invest in, you know, longer periods of, you know, things that we've always got that to-do list, don't we? Like, oh, when I get more time off, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And I feel like in real estate, it's one of those industries that is just so demanding that that list is always pretty hefty. So it's good to be able to diversify a little bit. But I am looking forward to and a bit excited to get back to some sort of fast-paced real estate when it does come back, and hence when I am sitting on the couch at the moment watching a little bit of Netflix, I know that you know, when I'll be missing those opportunities when we're working pretty big days again.
I reckon you'd struggle in the silence. You like the chaotic nature of having 65 things to do at once. Some people just like
Yeah, look, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to multitask as well when I actually get back again, because it's sort of taking the foot off a little bit. Yeah, taking the foot off a little bit now. But no, my days off are usually pretty structured too. You know, 9 o'clock coffee, and you know, I'll walk by 10, and you know, keep that bit of a structure. Look, I feel comfortable when things are organised and structured, and you know, running smoothly. So I sort of take that approach to lifestyle as well. But and working with Marcus, he tends to you know, make sure he's pushing me to be a little bit more sort of dynamic and on the run. You know, I'm pushing the structure, he's pushing the, you know, dynamic. So it seems to work well. But I'm trying to sort of relax up a little bit on that in our COVID times.
Good on you. Good on you. Last one from me, and again, thanks for giving me your time. I know you're working in a really busy team at the moment. What sort of advice or what would you say to help better the average agent admin relationship per team? As I mentioned earlier, you've had great longevity. You look like a team that has a lot of fun with one another. If you could walk into a few offices and say, I reckon if you improve this, this and this, you're going to go a long way to having a great, long-lasting agent admin relationship. What would your advice be?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think I've probably touched on it already, just the probably two things being most important. First one, just being communicating and knowing how to communicate with different people. I mean, I used to work with Brendan Allen very closely for probably 5 years now. And, you know, understanding how to speak to him versus, you know, when he's busy versus how to speak to Nicole, how to communicate with Marcus, it does differ. And if you can really knock that on the head, and I think the same with them, learning how I operate and how they're best to get, you know, me doing things for them on both sort of sides. When you can really nail that communication, things just run so much easier. And also that attitude. I mean, the attitude that the agents have towards admin can make a big impact, and vice versa. It's, you know, we very much have the attitude that we're working together, and, you know, that it needs to be seamless from both sides for everything to work really well. So I think communication and attitude, when those two things sort of you can really pay attention to those and give them basically the priority that they deserve, I think you set for improvement there.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I've been really lucky in my time at Marshall White to have some phenomenal admin that have been really supportive and helpful to me. And the best relationships I found with them, there's nothing better as an agent than when an admin cares about the result of you either getting a listing or making a sale. And I work with Maddie Barrett-Smith at the moment, who is an absolute gem. Has been juggling a few gigs at the moment, been running the office at Albert Park, and also helping myself and Brad Steinbach and a few others out down there. She's been outstanding. But one thing Maddie always does really, really well is she genuinely cares about the result, about, hey, did you get the listing last night? Or, you sold that. Well done. That's fantastic. She's invested in the outcome, and I love that. I love sharing that story. Like, you're a genuine contributor to that outcome, which is what we all want.
Absolutely. Like, I only want the best for the agents, you know, what they can achieve. And, you know, I'll bend over backwards to make sure that they've got what they need to walk into that presentation or whatever it may be, whether it's contracts, walk in with that buyer, and, you know, to have that success, you know, it's you just you know, being proud of them is just that next level of sort of, you know, validation, I guess, you know, achievement there too. You know, if they're winning, we're all winning, and they take that attitude with us too. So that's, you know, it works both ways. It's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Well done. Well done. I appreciate you giving me some time today. Episode 3 has been an absolute beauty, and no doubt you and I will catch up again post lockdown for a latte and a few gags about all these Zoom calls that we've been on.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. It's been great. It's always good to chat to you for sure.
Thanks again. See you, Mandy.
No worries. See you.
Bye.